Rolex releases. What do we know? At this stage, the only thing that we do know is that we don't know anything. I think I speak for a lot of us here when I say that the releases of last year, 2024, they were some of the most lackluster we have seen in the last half decade, in the last 5 years. I use the word lackluster very loosely because we know the majority of the pieces were given to us in precious metal, and there were some standouts. The 1908 in platinum with that gorgeous guilloche dial. The Deep Sea Dweller in solid yellow gold. You see, these watches, they aren't really for us. And the Rolex watch prediction cycle has changed a lot in the last 5 years. At least I've felt it. But I think the general buzz and the level of excitement around these predictions and releases, they're not as high as they used to be. For one good reason. In some way, Rolex has delivered on virtually everything that we have asked for. So I thought, let's attack it from a different angle. Is there a way to have a measurable guess about what we will see given to us by the brand if we look back in their catalog over the last few years? Because clearly, 2024 was not a good indicator. And in fact, Rolex has been relatively consistent with some of the pieces they've been giving us. So from 2020, some of the notable watches. Can you believe it's been 5 years already, but the Submariner receiving a refresh and the Oyster Perpetual getting the same treatment? 2021, we saw the Explorer 2 and the Explorer receive a facelift, as well as the Skydweller getting a Jubilee bracelet. 2022, we saw the left-hand drive VTNR GMT arrive, as well as the Air King receiving a facelift, and the Yacht-Master given to us in full yellow gold. 2023, the Daytona had a refresh. The Yacht-Master in full RLX titanium, the grey-black GMT two-tone and solid yellow gold. The Explorer was given a 40mm case, and the 1908 also arrived on the scene. And 2024, well, not much besides the grey-black GMT in steel and the other watches I've already mentioned, the Sea Dweller and the 1908 in platinum. Between 2020 and 2023, those 4 years, we saw some surprising updates. Most importantly, notable model lines being changed, different sizes, new movements. Submariners, Explorers, Air Kings, Daytonas, GMTs. And I think using those years as markers, we can easily predict what we're going to see throughout 2025. And it's a lot more exciting than 2024, let me tell you. So what's the main announcement of this year? 2025, it's the GMT's 70th anniversary. Now we know what that means. Rolex likes these milestones. They like to indicate it with a specific watch. So we might get one really great piece or several. So one of the first ideas that came to me, very unlikely, but as I was scrolling through the historic archives, looking at the reference 6542, what that watch represented, wouldn't it be great if Rolex followed a similar vein to how they addressed the Le Monde Daytona with those Newman-inspired subdials, great reverse panda colorway? Imagine they recreated the 6542 for this anniversary in a modern sense. Smaller in size, let's say 39mm in diameter. Platinum case, platinum bracelet, large crown, no crown guards. The colorway on the bezel matching the more Bakelite tone. Maybe the GMT-Master text in red and a red roulette date window. I just thought to myself, it'd be such a great novelty watch. Collectors would go mad for it. It'd be a great callback to that past watch and something slightly different. The chances of this happening, less than 0%, but hey. In an interesting turn of events, I was inspired by the Black Bay 58 GMT from last year. What was it that made this watch stand out so much from the crowd? It was the combination of the Coke bezel with the gilt elements. Now, all of us in the watch community, we have talked at length about the return of the Coke bezel GMT. It's going to happen one day, so why not mark it with a significant moment like this? And I thought instead of it being an all-steel model that we are so used to seeing, what's one color variation that they haven't tapped into very much? The CHNR, or the root beer. What if they combine elements of rose gold, two-tone, with the Coke bezel? The watch will not only stand out from the collection, but I think there is something quite complimentary about this colorway. And I think this would serve many purposes. It isolates the Coke bezel from the crowd. Similar to what we saw with the VTNR, it's not everyone's favorite. It's able to stand on its own 2 feet and doesn't have to be compared to a model like the Pepsi GMT or the Batman. The colors are quite complementary, and in fact this watch would fall more in line with the CHNR than it does with the other mainline pieces. I feel that this would be a subtle enough way for them to introduce a model like this without drawing all of the attention away from the rest. Instead of rose gold, I also played around with the concept of yellow gold and saw how that worked. And since the black and red combination does harken back to the late 80s, early 90s, I think precious metal in a way does align this watch to its history. So that's my guess, at least. If we're looking for a more mainline watch to arrive, the 70th anniversary, it would be an ideal moment for the Coke bezel to make a return. But most of us know to celebrate a moment of this magnitude, I'm sure they'll be releasing a full platinum model, or at least white gold. Maybe with a meteorite dial. I've used blue accents on the ceramic bezel and the hand, which I think work well. And to set it apart from the rest of the collection, similar to what they did with the Daytona, a clear caseback. It almost seems natural, right? And I think this example that I'm showing you now is a clear representation of the sort of watch that we would see. The GMT then, my hope is to see a platinum model as well as the Coke bezel make a resurgence. All of this is quite likely, it's all quite feasible. Now here's the thing, last year's releases, we didn't see anything new arrive necessarily, just different colors, different materials, compared to all the other years previously where we have seen refreshes. While all of our attention has been focused on the inevitability of seeing a GMT of some kind arriving, 1955 was a pivotal year for another watch. The Milgauss. And no, I'm not making this up. Between 1954 and 1955, this watch arrived on the scene. And as we know, a few years back, the most recent variant was discontinued. What has always been plain as day, especially with the modern collection, is that the Air King and the Milgauss, they share a close relationship with one another. And judging by the fact that the latest Air King model line hasn't taken off as much as I think we all expected, every single finger is pointing to the idea that the new Milgauss is going to be adopting the Air King case. And the simplicity of seeing this model line being launched with this case, 39, 40mm in diameter, a great new dial, bold, lightning bolt seconds hand. I have covered the Milgauss a lot in the past. I think a red accent color would be one of the best ways to call back to that original watch. A model like the 1019 or the 6541, if I remember the reference right. There is a lot of potential in this collection, not only to play with colors, but also to look back at that beautiful zirconium blue dial. Just putting that dial and crystal in a new case would work wonders for this range. Because there was really nothing wrong with this original package. And I know for a fact that Rolex likes to celebrate this color combination a lot in advertising. It has become the poster child for the Milgauss line. And maybe to separate it from the rest of the professional line, they could attach a ceramic bezel to this model. Very unlikely, but the simple idea of maybe just a friction fit bezel, no rotating elements, just replacing the flat polished steel with a flat ceramic. I just have a gut feel that this year, GMT anniversary, specialist watch, refresh of the Milgauss. It makes sense when we look at the historic records and where these watches originated. And if we look back a few years, the foundations for these watches, they've already been prepared and laid out for us. And now to the less plausible options. This wouldn't be a prediction video without a white dial Explorer featured somewhere, right? I went to great lengths to make this watch look as legitimate as possible, even adding drop shadow under the markers. So it looks pretty good. I am more proud of this render than anything else. I don't believe we're going to see it, but you never know. The Explorer line has always been a bankable collection for them. Another highly unlikely option, but the Submariner line hasn't been touched in the last 5 years, so why not just give it a titanium case? Whether it is the Submariner date or just the plain sub, seeing RLX titanium throughout would make a good combination. And I think it would be a nice gesture, just a subtle nod from them saying, yes, we haven't forgotten about this watch. Last and most unlikely scenario, the Rolex Turnograph making a return. I say that because it's a model line that just seems out of place today. It's unnecessary. We have the Sky Dweller, we have the Datejust, we have so many rotating bezels in the GMT and the Submariner category. Don't get me wrong, it would be amazing seeing this watch make a return. And if I'm not mistaken, 1955, give or take, it was the Turnograph's heyday. But I just don't see it in the modern collection. And I say all of this, maybe I'm completely wrong. That in a nutshell is what I think we can expect. A precious metal or white gold variant of the 70th anniversary GMT, a new colorway, maybe a meteorite dial with a clear caseback, and as a companion on a more subtle note, a watch that we could all go after, a Coke bezel variant, two-tone, maybe solid precious metal, rose gold, yellow gold. The return of the Milgauss in an Air King case with some great new accent colors, maybe the original zirconium blue dial. Less likely, but still plausible, the Explorer 40 and 36 with a white dial, and the Submariner in titanium because why not? Along the way, expect millions of new Datejusts, day dates, Sky Dwellers, everything else. Maybe a 1908 with a date complication or a perpetual calendar, I don't know. But I think these notable ones, they are the pieces that we are waiting to see the most. So what are your thoughts? Is there a model in here that you like the most? Which of the selection has stood out to you the best? All that we do know at this stage is that we don't know anything. So thank you for taking the time to watch this video. See you in the next one.